All right, here we go. Back after a somewhat wild Friday night with the live stream, the first live stream that I've done. So what am I going to talk about at this one? Everybody always wants to know that early, so I'll get it out of the way for you. I'm going to talk a little bit about the MPC 3.0 software. A little bit. I'll talk about that. I'm going to talk about Roger Lynn and the Boys of Summer, the Don Henley song, the little known connection there that you may or may not know. I'm going to talk about perception versus reality, which is in relation to the software thing, like plugins and the sound of them and the look of them, how they actually look better than the physical models that they are, the physical products that they're modeled after. So we'll get into all of that. We'll get into the usual drifting here and there, whether you like it or not. I've had a fair amount of coffee. I had this one quote I wanted to share because I had one of those days already. Loneliness becomes a lover, solitude a darling sin. That comes from Ian Fleming, the guy who wrote the James Bond books. I read The Spy Who Loved Me the other day. I literally sat down, and it's not as crazy as it sounds. I read it all in one day, but it's like 200 some pages, and it's a very easy read. It's kind of interesting. I know I'm on a tangent here, but that's the way it goes on this channel. Loneliness becomes a lover, solitude a darling sin. And in some ways, like, you know, I can relate to this, and I'm sure that you can if you're a studio person, and that it's a lonely existence, and you can be in your own head, in your own world for days. I did have one of those moments I was talking about where it was a little bit of chaos today, in that I had all kinds of designs on, getting a couple of things done. I had to do some bounces of stems for I don't know if you remember the legendary singer. That song is potentially going to another legendary singer slash keyboard player, and another one, two, who are going to possibly collaborate on this track, and we'll know soon enough, or not soon enough, depending on your perspective. And you know, that's the reality versus perspective. Oh yeah, so I had great designs on what I was going to do today, and I got a whole bunch of stuff done early. You know, some of the usual New York City stuff where you got to go move your car, and you got to go to the grocery store, and you got to get situated, and everything was going well until I knocked over a huge glass of hydration drink all over my kitchen. And when I say all over my kitchen, there's a table that's like in the middle that just, the thing got knocked over. It was kind of like the slow motion deal. The whole table was covered. All kinds of stuff was on that table at the moment, because that was one of my targets for the day, was like, I'm going to clear the clutter off of this table and really make some progress today. Well, it got cleared because it turned into the frantic mess, and then wiping up and mopping up. I'm going to have to do a double check later to find all the extra little spots where, luckily it's a clear liquid. It's not dairy. I've had that scenario where it's, yeah. I did one infamous one when I was staying in St. Louis. I woke up in the morning and I had yogurt and I had milk. And I used to shake the milk before I was going to put it in the coffee. And I got up and I was not quite awake, and I took the yogurt container and I shook that, and yogurt flew all around the room. Anyway, I'm all over the place. Maybe I'll cut that out. So yeah, the perspective on plugins, what they look like, what they sound like. I'm going to talk a bit about some of the things that we discussed in the live stream. And the live stream was phenomenal. It was like 2.5 hours. There was something like a total of 400 people, but it was an average of 50 to 60 the entire 2.5 hours. I could barely talk at the end, and I had to kind of pull the pin while there were still 50 people hanging around. But I think we're going to do them. I think I'm going to go for it again on Friday night. Whether I do it at 8:30 or a little earlier maybe for the UK crowd, Europe crowd, it's possible. Maybe I'll do something like 6:30, 7. If you guys want to comment. And on the comment tip, I appreciate it. This last video, I don't remember the title, got a ton of great comments, a lot of interesting stuff. I think it was, what have I told you, your music was incredible. That was the title. And I got 200 upvotes and 0 downvotes. So now's your chance. If you want to be the one that makes the downvote, go for it. So the plugins and the MPC 3.0. I do plan on having a friend of mine come on the channel very soon for a different kind of discussion on the 3.0 software for the MPC. I know that there's 1 million YouTube videos already because that's like the hot topic, and I've bumped into a few of those, and I mean, I think there's some guys out there that do really good in-depth, hands-on demonstrations of it. That's not going to be the way I discuss it here with my friend. We're going to just talk about practical stuff and where we think it's heading, why, and we'll take it from there. I think that things have to evolve, and if I owned an MPC Live or Live X or whatever the new ones are with the screens, I'd be quite excited to get my hands on that version and keep moving forward. This idea that you're just gonna always work the same and never evolve or go with the new thing seems kind of nuts to me. And it has nothing to do with sound of it or any of that. I'm just talking about the actual, what the possibilities are. And I'm excited that maybe if some device like that, which has a more DAW workflow, maybe that will entice the beat maker guy to actually get a little bit more elaborate with song production and song arrangement and having parts do different things, sections do different things, as opposed to the 4 or 8 bar loop, or God forbid just a 2 bar loop. So that's kind of where I would leave off on the 3.0 AKAI thing. I'm looking forward to it possibly being a desktop DAW, just like they have the MPC Beats, which I use. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing 3.0 as a standalone DAW. I don't think anybody else would be opposed to that. I think that must be where they're heading. I don't know anything about AKAI as far as their way of doing things, but I do. Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that. Oh yes, I mean, I got the shadow. I bought this Grammy silhouette, and I put it there on the wall so that it looks like a Grammy there. You know what I mean? Loneliness becomes a lover, solitude a darling sin. So on the live stream, we had tons of great discussions on. Discussions. There was something like 950 chat entries. I was trying to keep up with them. There's a lot And I appreciate the super chats and the buy me a coffees and all the other things. I have a few other guys that I'm doing mix and production consultations for this week, and that's always available if you guys are interested. So check that out or hit me up. Everyone has their perspective on the plugins. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like I've talked to this about this topic with a few other people, in that, you know, it's no secret that the plugin companies spend a lot of money on, or time and effort on, making the graphics for the plugins look unbelievable. And I do believe that those plugin graphics create the perception that you are using an LA2A or an 1176. And where this leads is me talking a little bit about the in the box versus, and this came up in the live stream too. And so to crisscross on you, to get access to the live stream after it's live, when it's live, anybody could watch it. You don't have to be a subscriber, you don't have to be a member or any of that stuff. Once it's streamed, basically the next day, it'll be members only. Partly for the courtesy for the members that, like, you know, they have access to something that is exclusive. And also because I feel like the live thing is a non-edited event. And I could theoretically say a whole bunch of crazy stuff. And that belongs in some sort of private world, some sort of solitude. I'll go back to my quote. So on the plugins, the perception versus reality thing, here's the thing. Like, I mix in the box all the time. I don't know who just texted me, but I forgot to put it on private. And I've been doing it for years. And when I say years, I mean 20-ish years of mixing in the box, working in the box. When I record, I tend to use analog devices to track things. So it's not a whole virtual world that I'm into. I'm not into not yet, I'm not into the mic modeling thing, or I've tried it. I've tried the UA mic pre's and using a microphone straight in. If there's one thing I don't like, it's the latency scenario with UA. It drives me kind of crazy, and I don't have the hyped up carbon stuff. So that's a whole nother topic. But here's the advantage of, if you can, and you get the opportunity to work with the analog gear, the SSL, the Neve, tape decks, real LA2As, real 1176s, real Neve mic pre's, real distressors. As I have worked with all of those things in their physical existences, I have the perspective of knowing what it felt like, or what those felt like. I know what a real 160, DBX 160 does. And I know what I'm looking for from it. And I've experienced driving a 160 or driving an 1176. So that's an advantage to someone when they go to use these plugins, because there's a little bit of a reference in your ear and your brain that, at least for me, I know what feel I'm looking for from those plugins. I don't care what they look like. I don't care what they say they actually are. Do I think they're not identical to the physical stuff. Are they different interpretations? Yes. Would I dial the exact same settings on a physical model that I would on a virtual plugin? Not likely. I would dial in whatever it took to get the sound that I was looking for. So that's what I'm saying, is like, yes, you can expect the same thing from digital as you can from analog, but it goes the other way. I used to have an argument that I would have with, this is really going to ruffle some feathers. I used to, when I first started really getting into mixing in the box, I had a few clients or other producer guys come and work and they'd be like, Tone, like, you know, wouldn't you rather work on a big console with, you know, all the analog outboard and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, listen, I mean, I like that stuff. Is it 100% reliable? No. Is it as versatile? Definitely not. Is it as fast? No. So my twisted way of sort of getting into that conversation with him or several guys was, I was like, you know, if the digital was first, the workstation blown out with, like, you know, the Mac with the M3 and all that stuff, if we had all that first with all these amazing plug-in emulations with all these incredible software synths and modules and effects and, you know, delays and reverbs and all that stuff, if all that was first, and one day I came to you and said, Tony, check it out. We got this gigantic room with this big console that goes from here to there. It can be a little finicky. The power supplies can die. Each individual channel could get a little crusty and we'll have to have a technician work on them. You only get 4 1176s in this room because that's all we have. You only get 3 digital delays and 2 reverbs because that's all we have. What do you think? Do you want to throw away your computer and go and work on this? Oh yeah, and by the way, when you go to recall it, you physically have to turn every knob to get back to the previous mix that you were on. And the faders might die here and there. And I think you get the picture. Like, I think if all of this new modern stuff was first, we would have never seen a 96 input console that broke down like crazy, that you needed extra air conditioning for and technicians, and it's just one guy's opinion. So a little quick fun story is on the song "The Boys of Summer" by Don Henley from, I guess that was Building the Perfect Beast album, his first solo album. So Mike Campbell, if you're not familiar, was the guitar player for Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and he's a, you know, prolific, incredible guitar player. He's in his 70s now, and he did an interview or like a blog piece on his channel a while ago. And he told the story of how he wrote the music to Boys of Summer. I hope you know what that song is, and if you don't, you should investigate Don Henley, Boys of Summer. I mean, you'd have to be living under a rock to not know that song somehow, right? Or the Atari Teenage Project, or the Teenage Monsters, or whatever they were, that did the cover. So anyway, Mike Campbell's story was classic. He said that he used to, the Heartbreakers rehearsed, and in the next room over where they were rehearsing was Leon Russell, and Leon Russell's guitar player was a guy named Roger Lynn, who was developing these LinnDrums. And Mike took up a friendship with him, and he said he got the 4 price, Friends of Roger price, and he bought a LinnDrum from him. And I'm guessing it was a Linn 1. It might have been a Linn 2, an LN2. But anyway, he wrote Boys of Summer with that LinnDrum. And there's a complicated story to it in that Tom Petty heard the music and thought it was great, but it was too jazzy or too slick for what he thought that him and the Heartbreakers were going for on the next album. So he told Mike that Mike could do whatever he wanted to with the track. So Mike knew Jimmy Iovine, famous dude, Apple Beats, Island Music, all that stuff. Dr. Dre's partner with Beats, a record producer in his own right that's done humongous records. Darkness on the Edge of Town, or The River. Anyway, he was working with Don Henley a bit, because Don Henley was signed to his label, I guess. And he arranged for the meeting. And I guess Mike knew Don Henley. He went there, went to meet him, played him the track, played him a few tracks maybe, I think he said. And Don Henley said, yeah, I want to write to this one. And I think, according to Mike's story, by the time he was on the way home, he got a phone call from Don saying, I think I just wrote the best song I've written in 10 years. Boys of Summer. And the story goes on from there. I think you should do your own research. Look up Mike. Maybe I'll put it in the about section or whatever that's called. So I've got my notes here. I talked about the plugins, the Boys of Summer, the LinnDrum, the live stream, the 3.0, and I talked about the quote I gave you for today, and my tragic spill story. I don't know if I have anything else. So there was some great comments on some other stuff. I'd mentioned the guy that made the video about, in 10 years of mixing or 10 years of making records or whatever, these are the mistakes, or these are the things I wish I knew. And so one of the guys in the comments said something along the lines of, that didn't stop him from, that didn't stop this guy from making mix tutorials 9 years ago, which is kind of interesting. I mean, I think that's kind of the way the internet is. There's perception versus reality. I snuck that title back in. I will see you soon, and probably see you on Friday night at some point for a stream.